Hello and welcome to the second edition of Chip Shots. I'm your host, Gary Mack. Hope you all had a great week and I hope you enjoyed the golf this week. It was quite exciting with, overtime and sudden death and two golfers battling down the entire 18 holes to win a major championship on the LPGA Tour. But let's take a look at the winners for this week as Harris English took home the Travelers Championship as he battled it out with Kramer Hickok over 8 sudden death holes after tying with him on the 72nd hole. They went another 8 until finally Harris English was able to sink a birdie putt to win the championship. And, Kramer Hickok really established himself and showed himself to be a really good competitor and a really good golfer. And Harris English gets I believe it was his fourth win of his career as he takes home the Travelers Championship. Steve Stricker won the Bridgestone Seniors Open Championship, Players Championship on Sunday at difficult Firestone National for his second victory of the year and his third major title. He had an 8-stroke lead in the third round and 4 in front entering the final round, and he closed with an even par 70 for a 6-stroke victory over defending champion and his good Wisconsin friend, Jerry Kelly. Stricker finished at 7 under on the South Course. The U.S. Ryder Cup captain opened with a 63, shot a 68 in 68 in the second round, a 70 in the third. Fred Couples shot a 67 to tie for third, with David Toms shooting a 70 at even par. Ernie Els was fifth at 2 over. Jim Furyk was another stroke behind. Nelly Korda, remember her? She won last week's tournament. She won the major LPGA Major Classic and now follows it up with the Women's PGA Championship on Sunday to capture her first major title and become the first American since 2014 to seize the world #1 ranking. Korda fired a 4 under par 68 to finish 72 holes at 19 under, defeating Lisette Salas, who shot a 272 after a closing round 70. And Salas finishes a solid second. This is her second finish in a major, finishing in the runner-up spot, as she did the same in, I think it was 2 years ago, in the the Women's Open Championship. So Korda becomes the first American to win a major women's golf title since Angela Stafford at the 2018 Evian. And remember Victor Hovland, who was broke out a couple years ago on the PGA Tour with all that group of young guys came out of college together. Colin Morikawa, Matthew Wolf. I can't remember. There was a couple of other guys, and Hovland's got himself a win on the European Tour as he went over to Germany and played in the BMW International Open. And he became the first Norwegian winner of a European Tour event. He finished at 19 under to beat Martin Keimer by 2 shots after the German shot 8 under 64 in the final round. A bogey on the 17th left Hovland with a 1-shot advantage heading into the final hole, but he birdied the par 5 to seal the win. So congratulations to Victor Hovland as he takes home the BMW International Open Championship there. Okay, well, we have got a great guest this week. Jeff Smith is on and did this interview a while back, but he's got an interesting outlook on the way he teaches golf, and his method is called the Plain and Simple Golf, PLANE. So I hope you'll enjoy that interview coming up right after this. Joining me tonight is Jeff Smith. He is a golf instructor. He's one of Golf Digest's highest ranked number 6 top teacher in the state of Indiana. He's won many other awards. His Plain and Simple Golf teaches golf in plain English. He's also one of the few BioSwing Dynamics Level 2 certified instructors in the world. We'll find out what exactly that means in just a minute. But Jeff, welcome.
Hey, thanks for calling me. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on your show.
So, Jeff, I'd like to find out, how did you get started in golf way back when?
Way back when? Well, let me tell you. Junior golf, a long time ago. I was a multi-sport athlete as a kid and just kept doing stuff. And I got introduced to the game because there was a park down the street, and it had a little 9-hole golf course, and it really wasn't much of anything. It was a municipally owned thing, and that was back in the 70s, and certainly golf wasn't a big thing then, and on and on. But I learned a little bit about it, and we started going out and hacking it around with some of my friends,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd keep going at it, and then pretty soon we'd keep playing. We'd go other places and mess around, and we kind of judged our rounds of golf on how many golf balls we found versus how many we lost, And then things just kind of blossomed from there. It was turned into one of those things that I kind of gave up for a while. In high school, I was a 6-sport athlete, but none of them were golf. People look at that and go, well, how do you do that? Like, well, you just do all those other things, and you got to cut something out, right? So, and then you go to college, and then you do all these intramural sports, and you mess around and you have fun, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, what is this? All these team sports, they go away.
Yeah.
Because everybody goes off into the world, and now now what do I do? So I meet this girl in college, and she's on the college golf team at Indiana University, and she can really play. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go watch what this is. So I go watch her play in a golf tournament, and I'm thinking, I don't even know what I'm watching. I really didn't pay attention at that time. So that's my first experience in paying attention to what really good golf looked like. And this girl in college, she is now my current wife of 31 years. And she played at Indiana University, and I met an awful lot of really good golfers. And it kind of blossomed into, I started playing more golf. And then I started playing tournament golf. Then I started saying, well, why don't I turn professional at golf for the purpose of not necessarily for playing, but to make it my lifelong thing that I wanted to go do, because it seemed like everything else I was doing, I just wanted to be at the golf course anyway. So I'm like, whatever job that I held at the time didn't really make any difference. It was just a job.
Right.
And yet I could just go to the golf course, and I could make my livelihood at a golf course and be just real happy. So here I am.
You might as well combine the two, right?
Yeah, right. That's just how it works, right?
So, talk a little bit about your Plain and Simple Golf. You have a school in Indiana, and
I'm in Columbus, Indiana, and I've been running. I call it Plain and Simple Golf School because people need English. They don't need golf speak, and they need it to be simple enough for them to do it. I'm not going to say I'm going to go out there and work with every PGA Tour player. That's not true. That's not my goal. I actually have helped one young man go from the 8th grade all the way up, and now he plays on the PGA Tour. His name's Tyler Duncan. He's a second-year player out on the PGA Tour, and he's done well for himself. And I've had a hand in it along the way, and that's been great. But I deal with regular people, and they don't need complex anything. And so I thought, if I'm going to teach people golf, and I'm going to run small golf schools here and there, and I run half-day schools and full-day schools, and I don't do the big fly-in to come see me thing and stay in this hotel and do all. I'm not trying to do that. I'm doing it for local people and run half-day schools and do that. And I call it plain and simple because it is what people need.
It's so true because it is so confusing when you listen to these videos or you watch the Golf Channel and there's so many theories and things to try I was telling somebody the other day that I took a couple of lessons a few years ago, number of years ago now, and it just confused the hell out of me. I came out playing worse because now I had no swing. As before, at least I had whatever it was, but I could hit the ball, and I had quite a slice, but I get rid of the slice, but now the ball goes nowhere, And I'm older, so I know you lose distance when you get a little older, but it's just it's just so confusing, um, it just makes things. It takes the fun out of the game sometimes.
Well, it sure does because people want to hit a ball well. They want the strike to feel good. They want the contact from club face to golf ball. They want to know that they've just accomplished something good in the feeling of what they got. They don't want to hit some clanky feeling thing.
Exactly.
That they don't want that. They want to feel like, man, I really got a hold of that one, right? And so, I talk to people about what their individual needs are going to be. Every person that I work with, they have the same goals, right? They want it to feel good and they want to sense that they've accomplished something good. They'd like it to go farther and they'd like it to go straighter. And, I spend a large amount of my time letting people understand golf's an accuracy game
Mhm.
and a distance game second. In competitive golf, it's the second is they might be flipped,
Yeah.
right? In competitive golf, it's certainly a power game. There's no doubt about it. But it's certainly an accuracy game as well because you can't just blast it anywhere while blasting it.
Right.
But I structure everything that I do and I customize it everything to each player. As you know, every human being is a different size, shape, and ability to move. Some people have a thing in their shoulder, and some people got a knee thing, and some people's got an elbow thing, and some people's got a little sciatica, and some people's got a little back thing, and and you go on, right? And so you find out what that person's capable of doing right here, right now, in front of you to say, how can this person get a club on the ball well? What structure do they have? What can they perform? And I get them to perform their best that way. And then all of a sudden they're wanting to do more because they've done that well. If stage one doesn't go well, there is no stage two.
Right. Right. And
It's just how that works,
and
right?
who were some of your influences on in your teaching methods, and who could you say that you looked up to and learned from?
Well, I still do. I don't stop learning, even though I'm teaching teachers now. I'm still learning from some of the best in the world. I would tell you from my early influences to now, some of the best instructors out there are some of the most knowledgeable people, but they also are able to adapt anything and everything that they're doing to the student. And so those people would be there's a master professional, a top 100 teacher, master professional from Duke University named Ed Bargwin. He is an amazing human being and an amazing teacher. The world famous Mike Adams,
Right.
top 100 teacher. He's a good friend and a mentor of mine. Both those guys are. E.A. Tischler is a Golf Magazine top 100 teacher, Golf Digest top 50. These guys. Um, I would tell you that those are three big ones. Rick Murphy, who's in the Carolinas section, he just got done running for Secretary of the PGA of America here shortly. But he was a heavy influence early on in my career, as I still to this day have an awful lot of respect for him. He taught me to teach children and to be a child while teaching children. And he was as engaging a man with everybody that he's ever met that I've ever seen. He's a fantastic influence on many. Um, Michael Hebron from New York.
Oh, yeah.
He is a very smart man, and his primary thing that he's doing these days that I learn a lot from is on how people learn. So that way I can become a better teacher by understanding how people learn. And I learned from some PhDs on biomechanics. I learned from some PhDs on how people perform. Um, there's a guy down in North Carolina um, named Dr. Robert Christina, and Dr. Bob taught me a long, long time ago about how many repetitions it would take a human being to change their motor pattern if they had the very same setup. And it was in the well over the hundred thousands just to change a motor pattern if you didn't change the setup. And so his big thing was, if you're going to be a golf instructor and you're going to try to get somebody to do something differently, it darn well better be different physical structure at the beginning. And that started to make me understand that the brain is important, but so is the physical structure. Because if you change the physical structure, then all of a sudden things get to move in a different way. And that really sent me down the road of studying the body and studying how we move, what our joints can do, some of those things. I was a student of the body when I was in college. I took an awful lot of classes that had to do with kinesiology and how we move and what we're built to do and
Right.
structure and whatnot. And all of a sudden, all of my teaching now is based upon the things that I've learned up to date. And a lot of it is, how do people learn and how does their body work? And all I do is I use English to talk to them about those things.
Well,
And it works.
that's an interesting point. So, what you're saying, if somebody loses it, if they have a certain body and then they lose a great deal of weight, for instance, that can change their swing
Dramatically.
dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. It sure can. The way that a person can move. For example, just the other day, there was a guy come in, and this is a very typical example. I worked with a man who was 64 years old. He was 5'10", and he was 215 pounds, and he had a bad right shoulder, didn't have an awful lot of mobility in it. When he stood up, he could not elevate his arm to get his hand even equal with, yet let alone behind his shoulder. It was always out in front of his shoulder, so he couldn't. His rotator joint didn't work very well.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so he couldn't do that, and he also had a stiff lower back. Now, it was not in pain, but it was just stiff. And he said, it's always stiff. Because I'm always after, when I find people and they tell me, hey, I can't do this or I can't do that, or I got a thing here, I got a thing here in my body. I really want to know, is it temporary or is it permanent? If it's a temporary thing, then I've got to kind of work my way around that. But if it's a permanent thing and this is what we have, then I don't have to work my way around it. I have to work with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we find out, what's this person in front of me? How can they move? How can their arms move? How much mobility do they have?
Right.
And then we build their golf swing based upon what they can do. And then all of a sudden they have one that they can do right now, like 5 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's something they can understand that they can do. And then it also doesn't feel funny to them. So sometimes people need a certain width of stance to make them in balance more. And sometimes people need to flare feet one direction or the other, a little more or a little less, to enhance mobility in a certain direction. And sometimes people need to stand up a little taller, and sometimes they don't. So it just depends on the student and what they've got.
Well, this is fascinating because this is what I'm
Well, if you think
going
about
through
this,
right
this is kind of
now.
a complex human motion, right? You can't sit there and go, "Hey, there's a golf swing," and
Right.
look at and look at a guy who's 5'7" and weighs 200, and tell him that he's all of a sudden got a swing like that 6'4" guy over there with big long
Right.
arms, right?
Right. It's so
No
true.
human being would suggest except in regular old ordinary golf instruction, that those two human beings should swing the same. Everybody else would look at that for what it is and go, well, of course they can't move the same. And that would be the general thought of it.
And
And so that's the approach.
and this is where I'm at now. I'm in the middle of I gained a lot of weight, and I've recently lost 75 pounds, and I'm
Good
got
for you.
much more to go. But I noticed I have a bad right knee. I've got an artificial left knee. I've got a stiff back. So
Right.
I'm trying to figure as I go. What's best, but I'm doing things I never did before with the hitting the golf ball. It's not all good, but you know what? I figure it'll get there if I keep working at it.
The truth is that if you've got enough mobility, I worked with a couple of guys that were larger than what they wanted to be, and they didn't feel like they had enough strength. But the truth is that if they just played a set of tees that they should be playing, like the senior tees or something along those lines,
Right.
they could really, truly enjoy the game because I could get them to hit the ball solidly. And when they hit the ball solidly, it went the best and the farthest and the straightest and the most consistent. And they enjoyed the game. But when they decided to put their ego back on and they decided to go back to the big boy tees, all of a sudden they went, well, now I can't play the game, and now they're mad. Because then they just can't enjoy it.
Right.
So what you do is you work with what you got. And if you dance with the girls you brought to the dance, right? That's the way that works.
So now in the most of the players that you're working with and that you see on a fairly daily basis, what do you see is the biggest problem with a lot of players? You mentioned
Concept.
about making contact and.
Yeah. I think it's their concept. I think an awful lot of people are trying to do things that conflict with each other. For example, a lot of people are trying to say, keep their head down. And they're also trying to rotate through. Now, wait a second. Those two things are in direct conflict with each other. You got something. Your brain has heard all this nonsense about keeping still and staying down on it and all those things, right? Mm-hmm. And that is a boat anchor from the top of your body on your head pinned to the ground. And then all of a sudden you're supposed to be Mr. Mobility underneath that. I think that's a problem. But that's just a clear example of the concept conflict that many people have. Because they've heard so many things and they're trying to apply so many things to themselves as if they should. I love it when I ask people frequently, what are you trying to do? And I'll just stand there with my whiteboard. If we do it inside my studio, I'll just write them down and say, is there anything else that you think you're trying to do here? Just spill your guts. Tell me everything you've got. What are you attempting to do? What do you think you're supposed to be doing? And then sometimes I point out the fact that this conflicts with that and that conflicts with this, and look at this problem over here. And then they start to go, oh my, I really, really am messed up. And I said, so why don't we get to this? Why don't we flush and start by saying, how about we move this club around our bodies in orbit and strike that golf ball however you can do it. Let's just make you swing, and I'll take away a ball, and then just start swinging around a circle, and then scuff the ground, and then I'll put a ball there, and they'll ask you, what'd you do? And they'll say, well, I don't even know. And I said, that's great. Because at least what we did was we flushed out bad concepts.
Right.
So in some instances, I'm a pain doctor. I get rid of pain. And in some instances, like this one, I'm a plumber. I get rid of fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Right? Because part of the job as a teacher is to lead the student down the best way for them to succeed. And many times, getting rid of bad concepts or at least conflicting concepts is the key to freedom for a student to progress. Because if a student had, and if it was a technique thing all the time, if a student had 5 technique thoughts in his head, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do the other thing, I got to twist the hair on the top of my elbow, or on my elbow, the top of the thing, I got to twist it 3 times counterclockwise before I fire my right knee, and all those kind of things that you could just put in somebody's head. What if they've already got a head full of stuff, and you're trying to get them to do something, and they're still trying to do the thing that they didn't voice?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you've got a technique concept problem, because now you just added something to the mix, and now you're sitting there as a teacher, you're wondering, why is it that this person can't do the simplest thing? It's because they're still trying to do something else.
Right.
So I think the number one most common thing that I deal with as a teacher is concept problems.
Very interesting. And do you think that the television and watching the pros as much as we get to see nowadays, do you think that affects it, because we all have an ego and we all want to hit the ball?
I think the commentary affects it. I think maybe the watching of the television is not so bad, because you can see an awful lot of fantastic athletes performing.
Right.
And you see basic things happen in all of those golf swings.
Mm-hmm.
You see all of them winding up on the way back and unwinding on the way through. You see almost every one of them standing up tall and facing their target at the end. You see almost all of them blasting the ground, except if they have a driver, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you see it in slightly different forms. So it would make you think, if there was no commentary whatsoever, if you just pushed mute on every one of the talking heads that are out there, and you just watched it, and you learned from player to player, swing to swing, the commonalities, you would have a much cleaner concept.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that so much information is being bombarded upon people, right? They just drop these knowledge bombs, and people take them for, well, this guy who's supposed to know something said this.
Right.
Therefore, it must apply to me. That's the part of the problem right there. They're saying it because they're being paid to fill airtime, right?
Right.
And
I think analytics, with all these launch angles now and club head speed, and I just think that gets in the head of high handicappers, and instead of trying, look, I'm guilty of it myself. I'll hit a good shot off the tee, and then I'm thinking, instead of thinking, just hit another shot like you hit that one, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can get on the green in 2 now, or you know what I'm saying? And I think it, and then I end up constantly, at least I'm consistent with that, but the second shot ends up being topped or shanked or something or other, and I think that's a common thing that high handicappers do.
I agree. They get to start to think that they're low handicappers, or they compare themselves to the freaks of nature that are PGA Tour players, right? I believe this, that the average person who plays golf, who watches golf on TV, since most of the time in the history of PGA Tour golf, the golfers themselves do not look like behemoth, perfect athletes such as NBA players, Major League Baseball players, NFL football players, and NHL hockey players, right?
Right.
They look like normal human beings. And so their appearance, and I'll somewhat exclude the last few years when the large number of real athletes are on the PGA Tour now, where these guys are actually freaks of nature. But take yourself back, 5 years and on backwards, where there were more, let's say, normal human being appearing people out there, highly skilled, but normal human being appearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like Tiger Woods and Ernie Els kind of physical bodies were littering the PGA Tour 5 years on back. But
Larry
now there are.
Nelson and those type of guys.
Sure, right. They look to be the ordinary human being, and because they appear to be, and they do wonderful things while on TV, and the fact that most of televised golf is a highlight reel. They're not showing you Thursday who's not playing well, and they don't show you Saturday who's not playing well and Sunday who's not playing well. No, they show you the best players in the world at the time that they're playing their best, and they televise those guys. So we are, as normal human beings, watching golf on television, and we're seeing the top level of performance from what appear to be normal-looking human beings. And thus, the high handicapper and everybody starts to think, well, why shouldn't I should be able to do that right away.
Yeah.
So here you are out there at 245 yards away, and you got your 3-wood in your hand, and you're saying to your buddies, hey, no, we better wait for those guys to get off the green. Right? And then you go up and you top it or you shank it, and then the guy that's sitting in the cart next to you is doing what you're doing right now, which is laughing your head off, and he's thinking, and we waited for that, right? Because you know that's what's coming.
It's so true. It's
right.
so true. Because then you want to kill the ball, and get it there.
That's right.
And who wants to take 3 shots to get there? You just don't want to.
Because you just saw on TV last week a guy that looks similar to you just do that, and you got this thought in your head. You're like, wow, hey, I'm there. I'm right there with him, right?
That's one
We're
reason.
walking the same. We put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time. We can do that. Sure.
That's kind of why I like to watch the ladies playing away, because you see it's more of a tempo game with them, and it amazes me how you get a girl 5'5" and she's hitting it 250 yards down the middle, but it's just
that's power, dude. That's power. I'm telling you. Look, you can use the word tempo all you want. You put some human being out there at 5'5" and can pop it out there 250. That is an athlete.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You put somebody out there at 6'5" and they're popping out there 250, and you go, okay, they probably got a lot more in the tank. But that 5'5" human being popping it out there 250, that's big stuff.
Right.
That's big stuff, right?
Now,
but go tell Lexi Thompson about your tempo thoughts. See what she thinks, right? She's out there last week blasting it past Charlie Hoffman and some of the other guys, right?
Right. I'd love to tell her. Maybe I can get her on too.
Yeah. Go tell her. You go, the ladies' game, it's all tempo. Yeah. See how far that one gets you.
Now, another mistake I think that the high handicapper makes is that we don't practice our short game enough. Do you find that to be the case?
Oh, yeah. They hate it. Look, one of the reasons they're high handicappers is because they don't practice well, and they don't practice the things that make the ball go into the hole when they do. What do? They go to the driving range, they get out the big old whooping stick, and they go, I'm going to hit this thing today, and I'm going to hit it hard. And then what do? They practice hitting the slice. And they get really good at it. But they don't want to, because short shots seem so easy because you just don't have to hit the ball that far. But yet it's a game of nerves. Now all of a sudden you put that guy on the golf course and you give him a little side action with his buddy, and next thing you know, he's a little bit nervy. And then all of a sudden his hands don't work the same.
Right.
And then he gets a little jabby and a little stabby and a little shanky and a little toppy comes out, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they get mad because it's such a short shot. It should be easy because there's no power needed. Well, there is practice of a certain thing. I talked to an awful lot of high handicappers going, how about layups? Why don't we just go out on the basketball court right now, just go shoot some layups? Yeah, those are easy, right? No, I want to go out and chuck it up from 3. You don't want to do layups? No, those are too easy. Really? Go do some. Watch what happens.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yep.
Same thing.
Very true.
If it doesn't require a bunch of power, people have a tendency to skip it. And then all of a sudden, they get mad when they're really not good at it. And then they come to me, and we do a little short game school. And so I have to challenge them to do so many in a row or something like that to get their brain off the fact that it's just a short shot and that they really ought to practice it. They really ought to learn how to hit it. We do that a lot.
Besides all your teaching, you also do a radio show and a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the radio show, we've been doing it for 5 years, and we're on the Golf Talk America network, which is on PGA Tour Radio. And we are also on the SB Nation radio network all over the country. And it's the show is called Those Weekend Golf Guys. Mm-hmm. And it's myself and my co-host, John Ashton. He is an avid golfer who's actually about a 10 handicap, although his moniker on the show is he's about an 18 handicapper, because we just want to talk golf to the normal average human being. That's our show. We don't talk about the PGA Tour because we don't care. We have fun. We laugh, we joke. It's like three guys sitting around at the 19th hole after a handful of beers talking golf. And, the thing we have to do the most on the show is watch what we say. The easiest part about our show is we don't have a script. Sometimes we don't have a topic, and it's successful because we're just talking golf and having fun. And I'll invite some of my friends on the show, and talk about their products and talk about their book. Just last week, we had on my friend from Philadelphia, Mr. John Dunnigan. He's got a great book out called Hovland. You ought to interview that guy. Okay. Pick him out. He's got this beautiful book on mastering putting's 3 essential skills. His name's John Dunnigan, and it's a terrific book. So I had him on the show, and we've had other people on the show. We've had from David Ledbetter to Barney Adams from Adams Golf to Dean Knuth from the USGA. We've had all kinds of people on our show in the last 5 years, and it's an awful lot of fun. And we enjoy it. We're going to keep doing it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you enjoy it. It is a lot of fun to talk to different people in the world of golf and get the different ideas and to see the different products that people can come up with in their head. And speaking of products, there's a big emphasis, especially, I don't know when it started, but I guess it's always been there, but really among high handicappers now with club fitting. How important is club fitting to you?
Oh, it's massive. It starts to me when parents bring their juniors in, and then they bring, little Timmy comes in, and Timmy's 5 feet tall and weighs 85 pounds, and yet Dad wants him to start learning the game with his clubs or with Uncle Bob's old cut downs, right, that are too stiff, too heavy, and little Timmy can't get it done. And so I think it's so important, even in the kids' game, that what I do is I stand there in front of the parents and I get out a full-size heavyweight baseball bat and hand it to little Timmy and go, "Here, Timmy, swing this at a fastball coming at you." And then I'll put a full-size shoulder pads on him and a full-size football helmet on and full-size full men's football shoes on him and say, "Okay, Timmy, go run for a touchdown when people try and tackle you." And I make a big point to the parents to don't start people off like that. Don't ruin your kid. Because a poorly fitted set of clubs is something that you'll struggle to adapt to. And then when I talk to adults, when they start the game, and I talk to them about fitting equipment, I have 5 different clubs that I pull out of a bag, and I hit them all. One of them is a junior club, so I'm bending way down, holding this very light, very flexible, smaller club that I have to adapt to. And then I hit a ladies club. And then I hit another club with a very soft shaft into it. Then I hit another club that's obviously a little bit too long and larger in diameter and very stiff. And then I hit one that's so long and so stiff that I can barely swing it. And I make my point is look at all the things that I had to do just to make contact with a club that did not work in my hands.
Right.
And one of those 5 was close to fitting me, but not mine. So I want my best performance. And people say, well, but I'm just learning how to play the game. I say, okay, that's fine. Let's get you in the ballpark then. All right, let's do that. I mean, I can't just go buy something off eBay. You could. And it might not be in the ballpark. But if it's in the ballpark, we got someplace that we can go without having you adapt too much.
Right.
And that's a big deal. So I want people to really understand, whether it's the kids or whether it's the adults, is that there are things that they would have to overcome in order to succeed, hitting this stinking little white ball sitting on the ground and do it powerfully and repeatedly to the best of their ability, instead of using some of their ability just to say, hold your balance while swinging, because you have to tip over too much because it's too short, or you got to, manipulate something because it's too long and heavy. They all kind of get it once you give them a visual of what happens when you have a bad one in your hand. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on club fitting. It's got to work.
Yeah.
It's got to work.
Yeah. And are you even with the putter? Do you go that far too?
I do. I don't quite go to that length of explanation and visual, but there are an awful lot of people out there who are very good at fitting putters. David Adele has a company, Adele Putters, that they do a beautiful job of fitting people for putters. Seymour fits people for their putters. Every company that's out there, Ping does a wonderful job of fitting people for putters. It's just a matter of finding out someone in your area that can fit one, because now we're talking about the precision tool, aren't we? Mm-hmm. We're talking about the thing that you need to set up so that you can move the best to work on these smaller distance things, not designed to hit a ball far at all, but boy, it's supposed to work. And we're talking about a precision movement, and you want your best to come out. So what you do is you get yourself fit generally for a putter, and then the better you get, you go back and get fit by someone who knows what they're doing. They should be able to get you into a putter that fits you, and they need to get you they should be able to explain to you and talk to you and make you understand why that works for you and why you would stop then fussing around searching for this one and then that one. And boy, there's another putter over there. And how about that Scotty Odyssey over there? Boy, that thing looks great. I got to go get that one. How about this one? It costs $400. That's got to be a putter for me. I should be able to make everything on the planet because it costs $400, right? But what if it didn't fit?
Right.
What if it was too upright, too long, too short, too big a grip, too small a grip, twisted a little sideways? What if the hosel was in the wrong place for you? What if you looked down at it and you just didn't like looking at it, but somebody goes, hey, it fits. And then you started making putts with it. Next thing you know, hey, guess what? You probably like looking at it after that. So, don't go for things on their look. Go for things on how they fit, how they perform in your hands.
And it's the club that, if you think about it, you probably use that the most in your bag on a golf course than any other clubs in the course of a round.
You do, unless you got really generous friends.
And a good short game.
You pitch it on the green. You pitch it on the green for 15 feet, and every time they go, yeah, pick it up. Pick it up. There, it's good.
Well, speaking of clubs, what is currently in your bag?
I have a set of Titleist AP3 irons. I have a Scotty Cameron Newport 2 putter from I don't know. Let me think about that. I think it's a 1999 Scotty Cameron Newport 2. I've had it for an awful long time, it seems like. I've got some Vokey wedges. I've got a TaylorMade Railer hybrid I've got a tailor-made four-wood, and I've got the new Titleist TP2 driver in my bag right this minute. So mostly I'm on Titleist staff, and I just admitted to having two non-Titleist clubs in my bag. Sorry about that, boys. They're just in my bag.
I don't know how they got there.
Picking them up off the floor, they just happen to be put in the bag.
And let me ask you, what would be your ideal foursome? If you could play with anybody, living or dead, who would it be?
All right. This is a fun one. Okay, so I'm going to include everybody that I want to play golf with today. My son, my two daughters, and my wife. That is not any stretch of anything. I have, my wife played college golf. My oldest daughter, Caroline, played college golf Division I at Loyola University in Chicago. She just graduated. My other daughter, Rebecca, she plays golf right now, Division I at LaSalle University in Philadelphia. And my son, he is a senior in high school, and he is headed off to college golf, has not yet made his decision. He's got 3 offers on the table, and he hasn't put a particular hat on just yet. That's my group. That's who I want to play golf with. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that in Scotland a few times. We've been to Royal Dornoch, we've been to the Old Course, we've been to Castle Stewart. We've played down at Hilton Head together. It's my favorite group. Outside of that, I got some fun names.
Go with it.
James Hong. He is a very funny man and a wonderful teacher. And he is somebody you probably ought to get on your show too. He's in Queens.
Oh.
He's in Port Washington, actually. He is a wonderful teacher. He's a good friend. I would love to play golf with him. I would love to play golf with my friend Mike Adams. I would love to play golf with my friend John Dunnigan. And I would love to play golf again with another teacher. How about that? I just named off teachers from the Northeast. This last guy, I played golf with him a little bit out on Long Island a couple summers ago, and Kirk Oguri. He's a fitter and a teacher, a Met Section Teacher of the Year, and a top 100 fitter, and an overall funny, really great guy. So that's a good foursome right there.
Okay.
That's 5, actually. I think I named 4.
Well, that's okay.
We play 5 here in Indiana.
Oh, okay. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you and take some lessons or whatever, how would they go about doing that?
They can find me easily at plainandsimplegolf.com, which PLANEAND simplegolf.com, or they can just call my cell phone, and I'll give that to you if you want it. It is 812-344-4109, or they can send me an email at jmspga@pga.com. I answer all kinds of things, and I have people coming to me from every place. It's fun.
Now, do people ever send you videos and ask to help with their swing?
They do a lot. And I ask them a lot of questions. Once I get the video, I say, send me the video, but send me a phone number. Because the first thing I want to do is I want to ask some questions. Because I'm not going to be able to, wherever they are, if they send me a video, I'm not going to be able to do any of the bioswing dynamic screenings on them because they're someplace else. I can't do it. So what I'm going to have them do is I'm going to do a couple of them remotely. And I'm going to find out what they're built to do before I start analyzing their golf swing. Because it would be unfair for me to say, hey, guess what? I do things based on what the person can physically do, but yet I analyze videos without even finding out what they physically can do.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want their phone number. I want to talk to them, and I want to have them set up, and I want to do a couple screens that'll tell me an awful lot about them before I give them that video analysis. So it's a fun process. I've done that before, and I like it a lot.
Okay. Well, I've got your email, so when we
Yeah.
get to warmer
And you got my
weather,
phone number.
and I get your phone number. Well, Jeff, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and taking some time to talk with me and talk with the people out there. And just thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad you called me, and certainly I hope that everybody listening to the show had a good time on your show, and I hope that they keep listening to it. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks to Jeff Smith for taking time out of his busy schedule to talk with us, and I hope you enjoyed that. And now let's take a look at the schedule for the upcoming week on the golf scene. On the PGA Tour, it is the Rocket Mortgage Classic with Bryson DeChambeau defending. The PGA Tour Champions is the holding the Dick's Sporting Goods Open. Doug Barrow defends there. The LPGA Tour, it is the Volunteers of America Classic with Angela Stanford as the last winner of that. And on the European Tour, it is the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open. So congratulations to everybody there, that previous winners, and good luck to all the golfers this week as they make their way across the world to play in the events. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll tune in every week. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It's very important. It helps us to build the community and expand to new listeners, and that's what we want to do. And leave a comment and click on the like button and hit that bell so you'll be notified whenever there's another episode of Chip Shots. So in the immortal words of Ben Hogan, remember, as you walk down the fairway of life, remember to smell the roses, as you only get to play one round. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time on another edition of Chip Shots.